In this video, we are going to be talking about another application of percents, and that is simple interest. So in this video, we want to answer the questions, what is simple interest, and how do you solve problems involving simple interest? So what is simple interest? Simple interest is an amount of money paid or earned for the use of money. Interest is earned when you let other people use your money, and interest is paid when you use other people's money. So like a loan or an investment. So if you have a savings account, the bank pays you interest, which is a small percentage of the amount of money you put into the bank. Or if you need a loan to buy something like a house or a car, then you have to pay the bank a small amount of money, which is a percentage of what you borrowed. That's called interest. And how is simple interest calculated? Well, there's a formula for it, and this is the formula right here, and that's I equals P times R times T, and each part of this formula is explained, and the I stands for the interest. Now, this is the amount of money that you're going to earn or have to pay for the use of money or for letting somebody else use your money. And then P stands for the principal, which is the amount of money you start with. So right here, this is an important concept if you've never heard of principal before. The principal is the original amount of the loan or the investment. It's the amount of money you always start with. So if I take out a loan from the bank for $1,000, the $1,000 is my principal. Or if I invest in my savings account $300, the $300 is my principal. So principal is the original amount of money you start with. R is the interest rate. This is the percent. This is the percent of interest that you are going to earn or be charged, and that's always as a percent. And then as always, in a formula or an equation, percents are written as decimals. So in this formula, the percent will always be a decimal. And then lastly, the T stands for time, and time always has to be measured in years. It's very important that we measure in years, not months or days or any other measurement of time. So how do we use the formula? Here's an example. Jenny puts $1,560 into a savings account. The account pays 2.5% simple interest. How much interest will she earn in 3 years? So she puts money into her savings account, and then she's going to start earning money from the bank, and that's 2.5% of whatever she has in the bank. So how do we calculate the interest? Well, what I like to do is just go through all the parts of the formula and just write down what I know from the problem. So do I know the amount of interest? No, I don't, because it asks how much interest. So the interest is the unknown here. The principal is the original amount of money she starts with. That's the $1,560. The rate, the percent, is 2.5%, which as a decimal is 0.025. And the time is 3 years. So I know all those pieces. So then all I have to do is take my formula, I equals P times R times T, and then just plug in what I know. I don't know what the interest is, so that's going to stay just I. The principal is $1,560. The rate was 2.5% as a decimal, and the time was 3 years. And then the formula says just multiply these numbers together, and if I do that, I get 117. So the interest is 117. That means Jenny will earn $117 in interest after 3 years. So pretty straightforward if you just know how to use the formula. Marcos invests $760 into a savings account. The account pays 4% simple interest. How much interest will he earn after 5 years? So again, I'm just going through the 4 things and writing down what I know. It asks how much interest will he earn? So I don't know what the interest is. He invested $760 into a savings account originally, so that's the principal. The percent that the account pays, or the amount of simple interest, is 4%, which is 0.04 as a decimal, and 5 years is the time, so that's T. So there's all the pieces that I need, and then again, I just plug those in. I don't know I. The principal was 760. The rate was 0.04, and the time was 5 years. I simply have to multiply those 3 numbers together, and I get 152. So Marcos will earn $152 in interest in 5 years. So then here's another extension question we can ask after that. If he's earned that much, how much money will then be in his account total after 5 years? So he earned an additional $152 in interest, but he also invested $760 to begin with. So if we add the interest onto what he originally had, that principal, we're going to get his total in his account after 5 years. So Marcos will have $912 in his account after 5 years. The $760 he originally put in, plus the $152 in interest that he earned after the 5 years. Mrs. Hanover borrows $1,400 at a rate of 5.5% per year. How much simple interest will she owe after 8 months? So again, what do we know? It's asking how much simple interest will she owe. So I don't know the interest again. She borrowed $1,400. That's the original amount of money she borrowed. That's the principal. It's a 5.5% annual interest rate. So that's 5.5% or 0.055. Now here's the tricky one. Pay attention to this. After 8 months. Now what did we say time had to be measured in? Time has to be measured in years. Well, it's 8 months. Well, how much of a year is 8 months? 8 months is 8/12ths of a year because there's 12 months in a year. So the time here is actually 8/12ths, which in simplest form is 2/3. So if you simplify that fraction, you get 2/3 of a year. So T actually has to be 2/3 here because it was measured in months. So be very careful with that time. Don't put an 8 there for time. Otherwise, the formula thinks that she's borrowed the money for 8 years, not 8 months. So now I just plug those values in. Again, I'm looking for the interest. The principal was $1,400 originally. The interest rate was 5.5% as a decimal. And then that time was 2/3. So then I just multiply all of those together and I get 51 1/3. But since we're talking about money, I have to write that as a decimal, which is 51.33 repeating. So it's just rounded to 51.33. So that means Mrs. Hanover will earn $51.33 in interest in 8 months. So how much will she owe after 8 months? So again, she owes $1,400 because that's what she borrowed, plus the $51.33 in interest that she earned after the 8 months to give a total of $1,451.33. So Mrs. Hanover will owe a total of $1,451.33 after 8 months because she has earned some interest there in addition to what she borrowed. An office manager charged $425 worth of office supplies on a credit card. The credit card has an interest rate of 9.9%. How much money will he owe at the end of the month if he makes no other charges on the card and does not make a payment? So again, what do I know? I don't know the interest because it says how much money will he owe at the end of the month. That's going to be what he owes originally plus the interest. So I don't know how much interest we have. That's the question mark. The original charge on the credit card is our principal. That's the $425. And the credit card has an interest rate of 9.9%, which is 0.099 as a decimal. And then how much will he owe at the end of the month? This is the key phrase right here, at the end of the month. So how long has he had this charge? How long has he had this loan, we could say? 1 month. Because it's at the end of the month. So after 1 month is what we're looking at here. And how much of a year is 1 month? 1 month is 1/12 of a year. So that's why our time is 1/12, because we're only calculating the charges for 1 month. So now again, I just use my formula. I'm trying to find the interest that's going to be charged on that balance, and the principal was $425, 9.9%. For 1 month, which is 1/12 of a year. And when you multiply those together, you get an interest of 3.50625. But again, we're talking about money, so I need to round this to the nearest penny, which is the hundredths place, and that's going to round up to $3.51. So that's how much interest he's going to earn on his credit card after 1 month. So how much will he owe total at the end of the month? The $425 he charged on the card plus the $3.51 in interest gives us a total of $428.51. So the office manager is going to owe $428.51 by the end of the month. So that was the original charge plus the interest. Here, let's take a look at some problems that where something else is missing besides the interest. So we can still use the formula to solve these types of problems, but it's a little bit different, so pay attention to these. Maggie is taking out a student loan for $2,600. She plans on paying off the loan in 3 years. At the end of 3 years, Maggie will have paid $390 in interest. What is the simple interest rate on the student loan? So if we look back at this information, and list what we know. This is a critical step here, to just list what you know. Do I know how much interest she's going to pay? Actually, we do. It says it right here. Maggie will have paid $390 in interest. So the interest is $390. The original loan was $2,600, so that's our principal. What is the simple interest rate? We don't actually know the rate. We don't know the percent that she was charged. So that's what's missing. And the time was 3 years, at the end of 3 years. So we know everything except the rate. So now I'm going to plug that into my formula, I equals P times R times T. And here is my interest that she's going to earn, $390. This was the amount of the loan, the principal. And then I don't know R, so that's just going to stay R. And the time was 3 years. So 390 equals 2,600 times R times 3. How do we figure out what that R needs to be? Well, I can multiply my 2,600 and my 3 together, use the commutative property to multiply those together to find out what that is. So now I know that 390 equals 7,800 times R. Well, when I'm trying to figure out what times 7,800 equals 390, I divide. I take 390 divided by 7,800. That's going to tell me what R is. And you get 0.05 when you divide that. That's what my rate is. Now remember, rate is a percentage, and this is written as a decimal. So I need to write that as a percent, multiply that by 100. So the simple interest rate for her loan was 5%. So we can still find the rate if we know all the other pieces of that problem. And then lastly, Dalton put $500 in his savings account that earns 4% simple interest. How long will it take his account to earn $50 in interest? So again, going through what we know how much interest we want to find. That's $50 in interest. And the original amount that he put into his savings account, or the principal, was $800. We know the account earns 4% interest, which is 0.04. We want to know, how long will it take? How many years is it going to take for him to earn $50 in interest on that account? So now again, I just use my formula and plug in what I know. The interest was $50. The principal was $800. It's a 4% interest rate, and I don't know T, so I'm going to leave that T. So now when I multiply these numbers together, 800 times 0.04 is 32. So 50 is going to equal 32 times T. Well, 32 times what would give me 50? To answer that question, I need to divide. 50 divided by 32 will tell me what T is. And when you take 50 divided by 32, you get 1.5625. So it will take Dalton's account about 1.6 years to earn $50 in interest. I just rounded that to the nearest tenth. So a little over a year and a half for Dalton to earn $50 in interest. So that's simple interest. Again, you can see it's all using the formula I equals P times R times T. Know what each of those parts of the formula represent. And then when you read an interest problem, make sure that you write down what you know. That's going to make solving that problem a lot easier.